Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1566B, and today's date is May 11th, 2018, and the title of the episode is Deep State Reboot, Donations Restarted to Regain Control Will Fail. Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. I uploaded a new interview with Michael Pinto. It is on the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel. So if you go over to YouTube and you type in X22 Report Spotlight, it will bring you to the video. Or you can come over to the X22Report.com site or NewsSentinel.com site. Scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side, and you can play the video right on the site. Or go to Steemit, that is steemit.com/@X22Report, and you can play the interview right on Steemit. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, something very interesting happened today, and we need to go back to Q's post 1009. This was posted on April 4th, 2018, and back in that post, Q said Manafort was a plant, Carter Page was a plant. Trace background, open source. Why is Mueller going after inside plants? And again, none of these individuals are going to be going to jail or charged with anything because plants are not going to be going to jail because they're being used for another reason. Now, what came out of this is this bombshell today where the FBI secretly planted spies in the Trump campaign. The Department of Justice lost its latest battle with Congress when it allowed House Intelligence Committee members to view classified documents about a top-secret intelligence source that was part of the FBI's investigation of the Trump campaign. Even without official confirmation of that source's name, the news so far holds some stunning implications. Among them is that the Justice Department and Federal Bureau of Investigation outright hid critical information from a congressional investigation. And a lot of the information that they were hiding is that there was a plant inside of the Trump campaign. I mean, this is going far down into the deep rabbit hole of the deep state and how far they have gone. And Q did say this. Now, are these individuals the plants? Well, we don't know as of yet, but this still is very interesting. Now, we understand that Trump is nixing this Iran treaty, which the Senate never approved. This was done behind closed doors with Obama. Again, this is information that is not viewable to the public, and there's a lot of secretive stuff inside of this agreement with Europe, with Iran, and many of the players, which we've been discussing. And Europe right now, they're looking at the situation and they're trying to figure out what their next step is. Because remember, the Iranians receiving funds from the U.S. The funds are gone. What does this mean for Europe? So France right now, Macron is saying that they're going to be pushing back against the threat of U.S. sanctions against French companies doing business with Iran. Because right now, we know that there are sanctions, there are the pullout of the Iranian deal, and they don't know what to make of this. They don't know what to do. They're nervous and afraid. The question is, why are they nervous and afraid? They're nervous and afraid is because they're afraid they're going to be exposed to what this deal really was. And they're going to have options. They're going to have to make a decision on what they're going to do. We're going to get into that in a little bit, but I just want to go back a little bit to why Iran and Syria are so important and why all of this is happening right now. And we talked about how this Iranian deal and allowing Israel to attack Syria from the south is basically going to harden Syria with Russia and eventually keep Israel out of Syria completely and expose those individuals who have been working with the terrorist groups, because they need Syria and Iran to be controlled, where the terrorists are out of the country, where the leaders of those countries have full control of the entire territory of their country. The reason for this, and Trump is working with China, he meets with Xi Jinping quite often because this is the plan. This is part of the plan, which we could see with North Korea. North Korea, they needed the deep state out of there. They needed Kim Jong-un on board. Why? For the One Belt, One Road. Let's look at Syria right now. China has been getting closer and closer to Syria. China is interested in Syria for its potential role in the One Belt, One Road initiative because they want to use the ports of Latakia and Tartus on the Mediterranean Sea. If Syria is to play any sort of meaningful role in the One Belt, One Road, then the government must have control of its territory. If we look at Iran, China and Iran, the two countries have a profound friendship for thousands of years. And they want to use Iran as a hub for transporting goods on the Silk Road. Iran has been a key partner within the Belt and Road framework. And they need the push to have regime change, to have war with Iran and everything else. They need this to stop. And these two countries are very, very important to China, to Russia, to the new economic system. And I believe Trump is part of this, just like North Korea was very important to the One Belt, One Road. Now, yesterday we talked about how Israel was making attacks in the southern area of Syria. And of course, the rebel forces, they mounted an offensive. It didn't go anywhere. But again, how did they know to mount that offense during this missile attack unless they were told that this was going to happen? And I said what eventually is going to happen is Russia, they mentioned it many times before, that they're going to bring in the S-300 missile system. And I find it very interesting that says Russia is not supplying the S-300 air defense system to Syria as of yet. Now, Peskov said the following: "We never announced these deliveries as such. However, we said that after the strikes by US, France, and the UK on Syria, Russia reserves the right to do whatever it deems necessary." And they're bringing this up now because I think they're basically saying, listen, if this continues, we're going to bring in the S-300 system. Now remember, Netanyahu met with Putin on May 9th, before all this happened. And following the talks, the Israeli Prime Minister said he has no reason to believe that Russia will attempt to limit Israel's freedom of operation in the region. Putin is playing him. Putin is allowing Israel to do this. Why? Do you think he wants Israel to basically go in and destroy the Syrian armed forces or the Iranian armed forces? Iran is a partner with Russia. They've been working together. Syria is a partner with Iran and Russia. They've been working together. They've been working and spending a lot of money in Syria to clear the terrorists out of there. They know exactly who controls the terrorists, who supports the terrorists. They're not stupid. They knew exactly where the oil convoy was, and it didn't take them that much time to destroy the funding of the Islamic State. All they did was destroy the convoy and said, hey, Erdogan and your son, you're receiving the profits from all this oil. And this is how the Islamic State is, you're receiving the oil and you're sending the money to the Islamic State. This is how this whole thing's being funded. And Putin called him out on this. And then all of a sudden, Turkey decided to shoot down a Russian jet. Now, Putin could have gone to war at that time, but he didn't. Now he has control over Erdogan. And he's allowing Israel to do this because he wants to make the case of why they need to bring in the S-300 system to protect the southern area. Once that airspace is locked down, guess what? Game over. And he knew that they were going to come into this area and do this. But they didn't spend all this time to allow the moderate rebels, the terrorist groups, to make any advancement. That would be absolutely ridiculous at this point in time. So we see right now that all of this is in motion. And if we go back in time, let's take a look at how the S-300 story has developed since mid-April. First reports about the possible S-300 surface-to-air missile system delivery to Syria appeared following a joint missile strike by the US, France, and UK on the 14th of April. On April 14th, at a press briefing, the Russian Defense Ministry head of Russia said, listen, we might bring in the S-300 missile system to Syria, considering the latest developments. On April 16th, the Russian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Sergei Lavrov, said that Russia was ready to consider any help for strengthening Syria's defenses, including the S-300. On April 23rd, Russian media speculated, quoting military diplomatic sources, that Russia could deliver its S-300 missile system to Syria within 1 month. On the same day, Lavrov stated that the issue of Russia's supplies of the S-300 missile system hadn't been decided upon yet. Then Peskov refused to comment on the delivery when he'd been asked about the growing complexity of the situation and with the possible supply of S-300 surface-to-air missile systems to Syria. So we see right now they've been mulling this around, and basically they wanted something out there, an event, to push them into doing this. Just like they were waiting for Assad to invite them into the country. They just don't do things. They strategically maneuver, and they do things on purpose. And they set things up, and all this has been planned. Now, Iran is out there, and they're accusing Israel of assisting terrorists in Syria in a UN letter. And they're saying that Israeli reckless action in the instance only helped the Islamic State and other terrorist groups in Syria. So they're actually calling Israel out to the UN. Now the question is, with all this going on, will the EU ditch Iran and the JCPOA? Well, we need to look at the situation here. One, we see that if they continue with the deal, they're going to have to come up with payments to Iran to keep them quiet. They can work together to pull this off, but it doesn't look like they're working together too well, and where they're going to get the funds. A lot of these countries aren't doing that well. And a lot of them don't want to pay. And if they don't pay, they will be exposed down the road. This is what they're most afraid of. Number two, it looks like they might have to go along with Trump's plan to say, you know something, maybe we should rework this deal and make it an official treaty on the up and up, where everyone can see it. It's completely transparent. If they go along with this, most likely Trump will not say a word. They will not point the fingers at Macron or Merkel or any of them. Why? It's not important at this time, because there's other individuals they're going after. And this is what they've been doing. Now, Giuliani let it slip, and I know there's a document out there saying that, yes, they're going to have regime change. Bolton says regime change. Trump is saying regime change. Well, he really didn't say regime change. Giuliani is saying that Trump is committed to regime change in Iran. Now, we need to go back to post 1081. April 8th, 2018. POTUS never, and this is in all caps, telegraphs his moves. Now, with them saying this, and Giuliani out there saying this, do you really think this is what they're doing? Go back to North Korea. Our nuclear button's bigger than yours. We can hit you from, anywhere in the world. Don't start with us. We have plans. We're going in there. We're going to invade. Did it happen? No. He'll never tell you that this is what he's going to do. That's why Q wrote this in all caps. And if we go to post 1106, April 9th, remember, Q said Israel's strikes harm the ability to prove events in Syria. And if we go to post 916, we are saving Israel for last. Remember, they caught 5 Islamic State terrorists. They were tricked, and they got them. Who do you think these individuals are? Do you think they're real terrorists and they're fighting for cause, or they're part of the Syrian moderate rebels or the Syrian Democratic Forces? Or do you think they're paid mercenaries where they get a paycheck? Yeah, they get a paycheck. Their allegiance is to those paying them. And what I think is going to happen here is they're going to start naming names, like No Name, like countries, individuals that they've dealt with, and plans they were told to carry out, which then puts the coalition forces, Israel, No Name, Clintons, and many others, well, in jeopardy. And this is all part of the plan. Now, we can see that the Syrian armed forces, they're ready to launch a massive offensive. So we might see another false flag in Syria where Israel is saying that Iran is bombing them or something is happening to allow whatever moderate rebels, whatever terrorist groups there to counter this offensive and maybe get a jump on the Syrian armed forces or to distract. So we might see something come up very, very shortly. Now, Q dropped some more intel. Post 1333, May 10th, 2018. He put up a picture, or the group, he put up a picture of 3 buildings with something on top, and it looks like this is the Marina Bay Sands in Singapore. This could be where the talks are being held, and Q says, note the pictures we post are all originals. Think about what that means, Q. Now, Q also dropped post 1334 on May 11th, and this is very interesting. Clinton Foundation, for an example. Post-election loss layoffs. Remember, a lot of the donations started to dry up. They had to lay off a lot of people because she lost the elections, and they were like, we're not donating anymore. That's where actually the Clintons made their money, from laundering money from their foundations. Q went on to say, no access control equals no donations today. Without all these funds, without getting these funds from these countries and these donors, they have no control. We know that Hillary Clinton is in New Zealand and also Australia. It looks like she's trying to start the New Zealand donation. Others, looks like she might be going to other countries to get them to donate. Why? Why? Because Hillary is bribing New Zealand to hand over money to their foundation. They will keep everything they know about New Zealand, their involvement in secret surveillance, quiet. They're blackmailing these countries because they have to, because the Clinton Foundation is out of money. And they need a lot more. So what they might be doing, and this is what Q is saying, they might be selling secrets, selling future access, regain their control and power, selling silence, which means, hey, we won't tell on you unless you hand over the money, and then we'll stay quiet. And Q went on to say, read below slow and carefully. 5 eyes. Why do former dignitaries still hold security clearance? Well, they are in New Zealand because they have the clearance to access records without being subject to U.S. oversight. Former dignitaries have access because Five Eyes is non-governmental, but legal authority was required for original access that then persists. U.S. to U.S. equals logged, flagged, recorded in the U.S. New Zealand, no logs, no flags, no records equals U.S. security clearance. Authorization for Five Eye view plus documents which they could take. And Q said, read above slow and carefully, once again. And this is telling us that these individuals keep their security clearance so they can go to the Five Eyes and get the information and watch what is happening. And I do believe that she is out there getting the donations, plus listening and trying to figure out what Trump is up to next, what the Patriots are up to next, and I think this is what they're trying to do. And Q went on to say, why do we allow former dignitaries security clearance? Welcome to the deep state. Because once these individuals are out of their position, they still allow them so they can still spy on every single person. So they know what's going on. This is the deep state. Q went on to post 1335, May 11th. Facebook is listening to you 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days. Literally, they are listening to you. F9 algorithm, they are recording safe housing, metadata collection, Building 8, DARPA, China. Basically, if you ever notice this when you're around your phone or anything else and you mention something, sometimes those ads pop up that you just mentioned. They're always listening. They always hear what you're doing. And let me bring you back to James Comey when he wanted encryption open for everyone so the FBI can get all the information from you, which other agencies already are doing because a lot of the malware is planted in the chips of all these devices. But of course, there's ways to stop it. And Comey said, well, I always keep a piece of tape over my camera because he knew that the cameras, the microphones were always on all the time. And I'm sure he might have disconnected his microphone in his computer, covered up his camera, maybe the same thing on his phone, because he knew that if something went down, guess what? They have all that information. But again, if he's near someone with a phone or something like that, they're capturing his conversations. And I believe they have everything he said. They have everything everyone has said. Remember, Q says, we see all, we know all. They have control of all of this now. They see what all these individuals are doing. Why are they letting these individuals travel around the world? Well, they're tracking them. They're building a case. They're seeing who they meet with, what information they access, what they're doing, to find out everything. This is why Pompeo was in the CIA for a short period of time, to gather the information on how this whole entire scam worked with the Iranian deal, where the money was sent, how it was sent. He needed to be in that position and then moved into the Secretary of State. So we can see the deep state, they're trying to reboot right now. They're trying to regain control, but they are going to fail. Why? Because Q has said it time and time again. We see all, we know all. And what that means is, as they let these people do all these things, they're just capturing all this data to be used against them. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.